The actual felling of a tree begins with the making of a scaffold for the axemen to stand on as they work. Then they begin their cutting their way into trees that may be as old as our civilization. For the redwood trees of California are probably the oldest of living things. The redwoods that grow along the coast live to be 2,000 years old. They are young at 350 years, they are mature at 1,000 years, and they reach old age at 1,500 years.
Redwood forests once grew throughout the northern hemisphere. As the Earth's climate changed, the redwood forests retreated. Two species survive in North America: coast redwoods and giant sequoias. Coast redwoods range from the Oregon border to California's Big Sur and inland as far as the fog drift.
So down they come, some of the world's oldest, biggest, and tallest trees. Trees that grow over 350 feet high. Trees that may be over 20 feet thick at the base. Trees that are so big that more than 20 houses can be made from just one tree. But don't think these giants are being completely destroyed. Many of the oldest and the biggest of the redwoods are being saved. Parks with thousands of acres of redwoods are set aside for our enjoyment.
Muir Woods National Monument, just north of San Francisco, is among the few remaining ancient coast redwood forests. Redwood groves provide habitat for a diverse array of plants and animals. 1 million people from around the world visit Muir Woods annually. But Muir Woods National Monument would not exist today were it not for the foresight of early conservationists. Theodore Roosevelt's tour of Yosemite National Park with naturalist John Muir in 1903 encouraged the president's conservationist sympathies. In 1906, Roosevelt signed the Antiquities Act, empowering presidents to create national monuments by proclamation. Muir Woods was the 7th national monument established by Roosevelt. Businessman William Kent and his wife Elizabeth Thatcher Kent donated the old-growth forest land for Muir Woods. Roosevelt planned to name the site after Kent, but Kent insisted the monument be named instead to honor naturalist John Muir. The Kents bought these last uncut Marin County redwoods to protect them from destruction. Muir Woods was the first national monument created from land donated by private individuals. William Kent later became a congressman. In 1916, he introduced legislation to create the National Park Service. Elizabeth Kent remained politically active as a conservationist, as a participant in the women's suffrage movement, and as an advocate for world peace. In the last days of World War II, Muir Woods would play a part in the hopes for a lasting peace.
San Francisco, California, a momentous conference begins. Here, leaders of the United Nations, representing all but a fraction of the Earth's population, are laying the foundations of international security in the post-war world. United States Secretary of State Stettinius opens the first session and introduces President Truman, who speaks from Washington.
President Franklin Delano Roosevelt planned a session of the UN Conference for the Muir Woods National Monument at the suggestion of Secretary of the Interior Harold Ickes. The Secretary had written the President, "Here, in such a temple of peace, delegates will gain perspective and a sense of time." President Roosevelt, chief architect of the UN conference, died before the conference opened. On May 19, 1945, delegates representing 46 nations gathered in Muir Woods to honor President Roosevelt. No doubt, the delegates could feel wisdom in the trees. Redwood trees are resilient. Their longevity is not accidental. Tannic acid in redwood creates its distinctive color and makes the tree resistant to fire and the ravages of insects and fungi. But today, 96% of old-growth coast redwoods have been logged. John Muir once remarked, "Any fool can destroy trees. They cannot run away. God has cared for these trees, saved them from drought, disease, avalanches, and floods. But he cannot save them from fools."
When we look at stacks of redwood lumber, we may well be reminded of its ancient history. For this is lumber from a species of tree that has survived for millions of years. Trees that can withstand the insects and diseases that kill off other species. Trees that can withstand fire. Trees that tower over 350 feet. Trees that live to be 2,000 and 4,000 years old. The tallest, biggest, oldest trees in the world.